Okay, so get this. A mini space shuttle, right? Unmanned, operated by the U.S. military, just landed after like over a year in orbit.
Hmm.
And get this, the details of its mission are totally classified. It's like straight out of a movie.
Oh, wow.
So today we are diving deep into the mysteries surrounding the X-37B spaceplane. You ready for this?
I am completely ready. Let's go.
I am so pumped for this one.
I think it really captures the imagination, this whole thing, right?
Yeah.
This latest mission, I mean, everybody's talking about this.
Right.
What I think is really, really interesting is what this mission, and really the X-37B program as a whole,
Right.
tells us about the future of space. I mean, that's the big question here, right?
Yeah, like what were they doing up there for 434 days?
Yeah,
It's a long time.
that's a long time.
The only confirmed detail we have is this NASA experiment
Right,
about radiation effects on materials.
right.
But I mean, come on, a year in orbit. There's got to be more to it.
Well, of course.
Yeah.
I mean, the secrecy just adds to the intrigue, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
But let's stick to what we do know. Okay, so the X-37B launched back in December 2023
Yeah.
on a SpaceX Falcon Heavy rocket.
Wait, a SpaceX rocket?
Uh-huh.
That's a pretty big deal in itself, right?
Absolutely. I think this is huge. This collaboration between the military and a private space company like SpaceX, I mean, it's a sign of things to come.
Yeah.
It shows how the lines are being blurred, right,
Yeah.
between government space endeavors and commercial space endeavors.
Right.
And I think this partnership really opens up a lot of really interesting doors, but it also raises some really interesting questions,
Yeah.
particularly when we start thinking about national security
Ah.
and space exploration.
Okay, so we've got this secret military mission hitching a ride on a private company's rocket.
Right.
What else do we know about this mission?
Okay, so after 434 days circling the Earth, right?
Yeah.
The X-37B makes this, like, really smooth pre-dawn landing
Okay.
at Vandenberg Space Force Base in California.
Vandenberg. That name rings a bell. What's its significance again?
Oh, Vandenberg's a hub for all things space. I mean, you've got launch facilities there. You've got testing grounds,
Right.
you name it. It plays a really crucial role in both civilian and military space operations,
Okay.
particularly those that have some national security implications.
Right.
So seeing the X-37B touchdown there definitely, adds to the whole mystery of it all.
So we've got this mini shuttle launching on a private rocket,
Right.
spending over a year in space doing who knows what,
Yeah.
and landing at a top secret military base. It's like we're living in a sci-fi film.
It really does, doesn't it? But I think what's really cool about all of this, right,
Mhm.
is that beyond the, cloak and dagger aspects of it all,
Yeah.
there is some seriously impressive technology at play here.
Right.
One of the, I think, key achievements of this recent mission was that it successfully demonstrated
Okay.
orbital maneuvering using atmospheric drag.
No, I'm no rocket scientist or anything, but atmospheric drag sounds like something I should probably know about.
Mhm.
Can you break that down for me?
So think of it this way, okay? So instead of relying solely on thrusters,
Okay.
the X-37B can actually use the Earth's atmosphere to kind of help it slow down and change its orbit.
Interesting.
So it's kind of like if you're swimming and you dip your hand in the water,
Uh-huh.
you feel that resistance, right? And that helps you change direction.
Correct.
It's the same kind of principle,
Yeah.
and it's called aerobraking.
Aerobraking. I like that.
Yeah.
That's pretty ingenious. But why go through all that trouble? Why not just use the thrusters?
Well, it all comes down to efficiency.
Okay.
So by using this aerobraking technique, the X-37B can conserve fuel,
I see.
which extends its mission duration
Right.
and also gives it much greater flexibility in orbit.
Okay.
So it's a game changer when you start thinking about maneuverability in long duration missions.
That makes sense. So is this X-37B like a souped up version of those old NASA space shuttles or?
Well, there are definitely some similarities.
Okay.
So just like the space shuttle, the X-37B is reusable.
Okay.
It takes off vertically like a rocket. Uh-huh.
And then it lands horizontally on a runway like an airplane?
I gotcha.
But picture this. Okay, picture a space shuttle and then shrink it down to about the size of a school bus.
Wow.
That's the X-37B.
A school bus in space. That's a pretty cool mental image.
It is, right.
Yeah.
It's actually quite small
Okay.
compared to the space shuttle.
Right.
And another key difference
Yeah.
is that the X-37B is entirely autonomous.
What? So there are no pilots on board or anything?
No pilots needed. Nope, it takes off.
Crazy.
It maneuvers in orbit. It lands
No.
all by itself.
That's got to be incredibly complex.
Incredibly complex.
Yeah.
And it really, I think, speaks volumes about the advancements that we've made in robotics
Right.
and autonomous systems.
Okay.
And this is the kind of technology that's really paving the way for much more ambitious space missions in the future.
Shh. So this little school bus-sized spacecraft is doing all that.
Hmm.
And we're just supposed to trust that it's all for, peaceful purposes. A lot to take in. Well, that's where things get really interesting, right? So the X-37B typically orbits between 150 and 500 miles above Earth.
Okay.
Now, this is a region of space that is teeming with vital satellites.
Okay.
I'm talking communication, navigation, you name it.
Right.
So you can see how its capabilities, right?
Yeah.
Combined with all the secrecy surrounding the missions, it naturally raises some eyebrows.
Oh, for sure. I can see why.
Mm.
It makes you wonder, though, right? Like, what could the future hold for a spacecraft like this?
Exactly. And I think that's something for you, dear listener, to really ponder.
Yeah.
So given the fact that it's reusable,
Yeah.
the fact that it has autonomous capabilities,
Right.
this innovative aerobraking technology that we talked about,
Uh-huh.
what are the long-term implications of the X-37B program?
Right.
Is it a harbinger of like a whole new era of space exploration?
Hmm.
Or could it actually signify maybe a shift towards the militarization of space?
Yeah.
It's a big question.
It is.
And it's one that deserves, I think, careful consideration.
I think I need a minute to process all this.
Yeah.
It's a lot to think about, but you're right. It really makes you think about what's happening way up above our heads.
Absolutely.
Well, that's all the time we have for today's deep dive. Thanks for joining us,
Always a pleasure.
and we'll see you next time
See you next time.
for another deep dive into the most fascinating topics of the day.
Absolutely.
Until then, stay curious.
Stay curious.